there is, in the opinion of some, a conspiracy to get rid of the tush push. And one of the straw man arguments, or would it be straw men if there are more than one? I really don't know. But one of the things that the NFL has used to try to build a coalition of sufficient numbers, they need 24. They got to 22. 68.75% of all teams want to get rid of it, but it's got to be 75% to change the rule. One of the arguments is it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe. Sean Payton, whose Broncos faced the Eagles on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field, addressed his belief and position on whether or not the tush push is a dangerous play. Here's what he said.
I was one that stood up in favor of. The reason I stood up in favor of is pretty simple. If the powers to be don't want it for aesthetic reasons or competitive reasons, or it's hard to officiate, etc. But I've been involved in those meetings for a long time, and when all of a sudden health and safety was pulled into that, which might be the safest play in football, my nose kind of went up. And so, look, it's a quarterback sneak, and I think credit Philadelphia. They scored a touchdown last week. Take a peek at this past week's touchdown off the tush push look, and it was a sweep to the left. So I'm one that looks at it, as long as the line of scrimmage is clean, that it's a well-run quarterback sneak.
Yeah, there may be people at the league office, Michael, that don't like hearing that, because the first thing they tried last March was to argue that it's unsafe. Now, some would say, and I know Jason Garrett believes we do need to consider the stress it puts on defensive players when this wall of humanity is coming at them, but the league chose to go with this fear of potential catastrophic neck injury. That was how Dr. Alan Sills sold it last March. The Eagles rebutted it in May when they had the vote, and Sills wasn't even there to respond to the presentation that focused on a compelling argument from Jason Kelce, which ultimately saved the day.
Yeah, I love what Kelce said. Hey, if I could just run the tush push, I'd unretire. I'd do it. Just kind of rebutting, as you said, the testimony that it's not safe. Listening to Sean Payton, tell me, Mike, if you agree with this. You reach a certain point in life. Payton is just over 60, right? I think he's in his 60s.
I'm in the category you're about to describe.
Yeah, you reach a certain point. You've done well. You've had some high-profile jobs. He was in New Orleans for a long time. After he left New Orleans, he did TV. He's secure in the job. Nobody says Sean Payton can't coach. If the Broncos move on from him, somebody else will want to hire him. You just reach a point and you say, okay, I'm going to say what I think. I don't give a damn. I don't care if they don't like it or not. This is how I feel, and I'm not gonna hold back and say what I really have on my heart. You get the sense that Payton is at that point where a lot of coaches, probably half the coaches in the league, don't have the authority to say what he just said.
Now, look, not that I was much different as I was building PFT, because I think one of the things that set us apart was the willingness to say what needed to be said. But I at least used to worry about ramifications. I got to a point where, and I can't use the terminology. I can, but I don't feel like spending the rest of the morning
too early
having to explain myself. But it's F-KU money. Once you get to that, where even if it all goes away today, you'll be fine. Once you get there, there's a freedom, and it's a power that could be misused very easily. But Peyton's well past that point. Payton was past that point before he went to work for the Broncos. Hell, one of the reasons I think he came back to coach is he'd like to be the first guy to win a Super Bowl with two different franchises. But yes, it is a very real dynamic. And it's good that somebody came out and said it. He's the first one to come out and call BS on the idea. And what troubled me the most about the push against the tush push, The league office tried to instigate this, and it took on a feel. And I'm not going political here. I'm not taking a position politically. It just started to feel like the same kind of both sides political bullcrap that we deal with all the time, where reality takes a back seat to whatever it is that we feel like we need to say to get what we want.
Yeah, no question. I'm going to persuade you, and if I can't persuade you just with logic, well, that you could agree or disagree with, if I can't persuade you that way, then I'll just go over the top. I'll just say something that's not even proven, that's not true, just because I've got something I want to get. Now, Payton, I don't want to say he's doing this all for, altruistic reasons, or he just doesn't care. I mean, there's some quid pro quo involved too. You get to the point, maybe he's got something up his sleeve. He's an innovator. Maybe he wants to do something that is on the borderline of controversial, and he's going to need some votes, or the Broncos will need some votes to get that through the league if it ever comes under question. So he's getting an ally in Philly. Hey, I'm going to help you out, and if I need it, whether it's a play or anything else, maybe you guys will have my back too.
At the end of the day, I'm not sure where the Broncos voted on the tush push, though, because it's not his call, it's ownership's call. And there are other reasons why ownership may or may not go along. That's part of the political reality, not political in the way that we're used to hearing all of this stuff that affects world and domestic affairs, but just the politics of any organization. Do you go along with 345 Park Avenue? Greg Penner, still fairly new relative to other owners, trying to build a stadium, different things going on. Do you just say, fine, we don't have an issue with the play, but if you want to get rid of it, we'll vote to get rid of it. And that's why I think they're going to make another run at it. They're 2 votes short. And I think that, this year's straw man is it's too hard to officiate. So I like the fact that Nick Sirianni engaged in the political element of it by saying, after the game against the Buccaneers where they did the sweep, hey, I'm coming to the stadium and the Dublin game's on and they got a promo with the tush push in it. People like this. People like this. People want this. That's part of the political game you got to play if you want to save it.
Mike, I wonder if last week, the tush push became unstoppable. I mean, it's already like pretty much automatic first down. When you get to the 1, automatic touchdown. It's already there. But now you introduce a variation off of it. You got Saquon Barkley. Instead of the mosh put at the middle of the field, now you're going to introduce the edges. I mean, if they do this, they start doing this stuff, it's like, what do you do? And now, can you overcommit to it? Can you really sell out in the middle of the field knowing that they have put this on film? It may be outlawed this season, not because of safety, not because of officiating, but because now other coaches are going to say, wait a minute, what are we supposed to do with this? That is one hell of an unstoppable play.
The key is going to be to make the league office stop hating it. And I believe that the final straw for the commissioner was Frankie Louvu of the Commanders jumping offside multiple times down near the goal line, because that's the one, and you could call it a loophole. It's just a reality. As you get closer and closer to the goal line, you jump offside every play, and what's half the distance of that, right? So you just keep jumping offside until maybe you get lucky and you disrupt the play or dislodge the ball or whatever, to the point where they were going to award the Eagles a touchdown. I think that's when the commissioner decided this has to go, because it was just days after that Mike Pereira said somewhere that they're going to make another run at the tush push because of the display in the Washington game, which is completely counterintuitive because the Eagles didn't do that. But, okay, the effort to stop the play has gone to such an extreme that we just got to get rid of the play. None of that makes any sense, but I think that's what made the commissioner decide this has to go. We'll see how he feels in March. But based upon the first couple of weeks, when we saw, the guys leaving early, that needs to stop. They need this thing to calm down. I was told before the season, I was trying to do some research on what's next for the tush push. The key word for me was unremarkable. If it's an unremarkable season for the tush push, it'll stay. If it's a remarkable season, they'll try to get rid of it. And based on the first 2 weeks, it was pretty remarkable. And then when it happened again in week 3, it was remarkable. It was remarkable in a good way with that variation. And we may see more. Hey, wouldn't it be great? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Do a quick play action and throw a long pass to A.J. Brown, who's clearly not happy with his role. There's all sorts of stuff you can do off of that formation.
Mike, I'm trying to think of it because I can think in other sports. In baseball in the 60s, Bob Gibson has an ERA of 1.12, I think his ERA was. And then the next year they lower the mound. They lower the mound because, come on, you just can't have a 1.12 ERA. And it wasn't just Gibson, but he was like the poster boy for it. And then in college basketball, he couldn't dunk. Lou Alcindor couldn't dunk. So he eventually developed the hook shot and all that. I'm trying to think in football.
Wasn't the key, like the key in basketball is called a key because it used to look like a key. Didn't they widen it because of Wilt Chamberlain?
Yeah, exactly. That's it too. I'm trying to think, have we ever had anything like this since the merger? Is there a play that's been so disputed for years, for multiple years, where the league has to say, for one team, it's not like we've seen points of emphasis. Well, you can't be too handsy. Defensive backs, you guys are kind of, taking some creative liberties with that 5-yard area. And sometimes it's 7 and 8, 9 yards down the field. That's a lot of teams. I can't think of an example. Maybe I'm missing an obvious one where a team is just targeted because the rest of the league says, oh, we can do it, but we just can't do it as well as they do. We don't like it.
Well, the Colts and Bill Polian spearheaded the idea of making illegal contact a point of emphasis specifically directed to Patriots. But that's not a rule change. That's just, hey, let's apply this rule. There hasn't been something that one team that I can think of, and anytime I feel that way, it's like, you know what, there's probably something I'm missing. But I can't think of a rule that was specifically implemented to address something that one team and only one team did well. Because usually what happens is everybody else starts doing it too. And everybody else comes up with a way to defend it. I remember when the whole Wildcat zone read stuff was all the rage 10, 12 years ago. Nobody knew how to stop it. And you know what happened? They figured out how to stop it. And they figured out how to do it. And it was no longer this thing that felt like it was a cheat code. There is one example I remember, though. And it's not that one team did it multiple times, but I think it was the Colts who had a guy who was able to block a field goal at the goalpost, jumped up and blocked it before it crossed, and they changed the rule that you can't do it. So basically it's goaltending now if you go up and try to block a field goal at the post. That's one thing I remember that was changed because of something that was done in a game, but that's it.
That's a pretty amazing skill, isn't it? To be able to time it up. Now you're affecting the kicker. I'm like, well, I would usually do it like this. I could boot this thing over on a low line drive, but I can't because that guy's back there and he's got to swat it away. That's pretty amazing.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.